Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Shalom Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekara. Here are your headlines for tonight.
Iran-Israel tensions escalate. Top Iranian commander killed in airstrike. Iran fires missiles near Mossad headquarters in retaliatory strike. No fuel shortage in Sri Lanka, assures government, noting that fuel reserves sufficient for 6 weeks.
මේ පවතින තෙල් තොගය මාස දෙකමාරට ප්‍රමාණවත් වෙන අතරේ ඉදිරි කාලය තුල මේ ඇනෝම් ලැබෙන්නට නියමිතයි. ඒ නිසා කිසිවෙක් බිය යුතු නැහැ.
Government to centralize SOE management under new entity. SJB walks out of parliament.
ඔබතුමා අවස්ථාව ලබා දෙන්නේ නැත්නම් මේ අදහස් ඉදිරිපත් කරන්නට අපිට ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදීව කටයුතු කරන්නට අපිට තවදුරටත් මේ සභාවේ රැඳී ඉන්නට බෑ.
අපි ওই මිරිස් කුඩු සිද්ධියට වඩා පොඩ්ඩයි අඩුවේ සංග කරන සමහර වැඩ.
Acting IGP testifies on Deshabandhu's conduct before probe committee. Sri Lanka, France signed debt restructuring agreement.
We start off tonight's news with some developing news from overseas. Israel and Iran are trading strikes on a 5th consecutive day of conflict, with civilians in flashpoint areas facing waves of attacks. In Iran, at least 224 people have been killed since hostilities began. In Israel, 24 people have been killed.
Global tensions around the world have been making headlines, and we here at Newsfirst have been bringing you comprehensive reports on these stories, especially the situation between Russia and Ukraine, and then also we move towards the Gaza situation and the latest on that, and lately the situation between India and Pakistan, and now the latest, the escalations between Iran and Israel. Now, tensions between Iran and Israel have escalated significantly, with both countries engaging in military operations and issuing strong diplomatic statements. The situation has drawn international attention due to its potential implications for regional stability and global energy markets, and at the same time, Israeli forces issued an evacuation warning for parts of northeastern Tehran ahead of plans to target military infrastructure. Shortly after this, US President Donald Trump posted on social media that, quote-unquote, everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. At the same time, the US President also cut short his G7 visit. As the Israel-Iran conflict enters its 5th day, world leaders at the G7 summit in Canada have issued a unified call for de-escalation, expressing grave concern over the rising civilian toll and regional instability. The summit, hosted by Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, saw urgent discussions dominated by the escalating military exchange between Tehran and Tel Aviv. Before departing for the summit, US President Donald Trump told reporters he hoped Israel and Iran could reach an agreement, stating, quote-unquote, they should talk and they should talk immediately. However, Trump cut his visit short, citing the worsening situation in the Middle East. He later urged Tehran's 10 million residents to evacuate, warning of further escalation if Iran did not return to nuclear negotiation. In a revised joint statement, the G7 leaders affirmed Israel's right to self-defense, Iran as the principal source of regional instability and terror, a call for civilian protection and restraint, support for a ceasefire in Gaza and broader Middle East de-escalation. The statement also emphasized that Iran must never acquire nuclear weapons and urged a return to diplomatic negotiations under international law. Macron described the move as a positive development. However, Trump dismissed the French president's statement that he was helping negotiate an Israel-Iran ceasefire. President Donald Trump said his decision to leave the G7 summit earlier than scheduled had nothing to do with a potential ceasefire between Israel and Iran, but something much bigger. Donald Trump dramatically left the G7 summit in Canada a day early to rush back to Washington, with the French President Emmanuel Macron claiming the US leader was considering the prospect of a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. 21 Arab and Muslim countries issued a joint statement Monday condemning Israel's airstrikes on Iran and calling for regional de-escalation, nuclear disarmament without selectivity and respect for international law. The statement was the result of an initiative by Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Lati following consultations with his counterparts across the region. The initiative includes Turkey, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, Pakistan, Bahrain, Brunei, Chad, Gambia, Algeria, Comoros, Djibouti, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Somalia, Iraq, Oman, Qatar, Kuwait, Libya, Egypt and Mauritania. The foreign ministers condemned Israel's attacks on Iranian territory, calling them violations of international law and the United Nations Charter. The joint statement emphasized the need to respect national sovereignty, territorial integrity and principles of good neighborliness and called for peaceful dispute resolution. The ministers also expressed deep concern over the dangerous escalation, warning it could have serious consequences for regional security and stability. They called for an immediate halt to Israeli hostilities against Iran and for comprehensive de-escalation efforts leading to a comprehensive ceasefire. The Islamic Revolution Guards Corps, also known as the IRGC Aerospace Force, unveiled its newest kamikaze drone dubbed Shahid-107. Now, this unmanned aerial vehicle used for kamikaze operations against hostile targets was unveiled on Monday. Now, images of Shahid-107 indicate that it is equipped with a piston engine that allows the aircraft to fly at a range of over 1,500 kilometers. Iranian state media reported that the country's airspace will be closed in order to protect the safety of passengers and flight security. At the same time, Iran's airspace has been shut since Israel's attack last Friday, and flights have taken alternative routes as the two countries continue to trade strikes. Iran's envoy to the United Nations in New York says the Israeli war of aggression on Iran crossed all red lines. Now, Saidi Ravani made the remark in a statement to reporters on Monday.
Israel has committed a blatant act of aggression against the sovereign and territorial integrity of Iran. Its relentless campaign of atrocities against our people continues unabated. This is a serious violation of the United Nations Charter and fundamental principles of international law. These attacks crossed all red lines. Most alarmingly, Israel deliberately targeted a peaceful nuclear facility operating under full IAEA safeguards. This is a dangerous and illegal act. It posed a serious risk of releasing radioactive material. If Iran had not immediately contained the situation, the consequences could have been catastrophic. Israeli claims of surgical strike is false and misleading. Iran does not seek war or escalation, but we will not hesitate to defend our people, our territory, and our sovereignty. Unlike the Israeli regime, Iran respects the international humanitarian law. We did not target civilians.
At the same time now, a series of explosions rocked Tehran overnight, marking one of the most intense phases of the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran, now in its fifth day. Now, the strikes came shortly after US President Donald Trump issued a stark warning urging Tehran's 10 million residents to evacuate immediately, citing imminent military action. Iranian forces launched a missile strike that reportedly hit the headquarters of Mossad, Israel's foreign intelligence agency located near Tel Aviv. According to Iranian state media and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the strike targeted a major Mossad facility used for intelligence operations and strategic planning. Israeli airstrikes targeted multiple sites in Tehran, including a university, state television headquarters, and military installations. Iranian media reported thick black smoke rising from buildings in the capital and surrounding cities such as Tabriz and Kashan. At least 224 people have been killed in Iran, including 70 women and children, with over 1,300 injured, according to Iranian state media. In Israel, 24 people have died and more than 300 have been wounded in retaliatory missile and drone attacks launched by Iran. A strike on Iran's state broadcaster IRIB occurred during a live segment, killing 3 employees. The broadcast was abruptly cut and replaced with pre-recorded programming. Israel later stated the strike was carried out after civilians had evacuated and claimed it was aimed at disrupting propaganda operations. Iran launched a new wave of missiles and drones targeting central and northern Israel, including Tel Aviv and Haifa. This marks the 9th phase of Iran's retaliatory campaign dubbed Operation True Promise. Israel's Iron Dome and other defense systems intercepted many of the projectiles, but damage to infrastructure and civilian areas was reported. The Israeli Population and Immigration Authority has instructed all foreign workers in Israel to install the Ministry of Defense's official security information app on their mobile devices. This app provides real-time alerts and safety instructions during missile and drone attacks. The Sri Lankan ambassador to Israel said that all Sri Lankans are strongly advised to download and monitor this app regularly. The ambassador added that 4 Sri Lankans injured in the recent attacks are in stable condition and are expected to resume work in the coming days. Additionally, 2 other Sri Lankans were temporarily evacuated from their residences. The employer has made alternative accommodation arrangements. A staff member of the Sri Lankan embassy also experienced property damage to her residence, but she remains unharmed. Now the question amidst all this chaos is, what will the impact to oil prices become? Now, oil prices climbed over 2% as Iran-Israel tensions intensified, and US President Donald Trump urged everyone to evacuate Tehran, increasing the prospect of deepening unrest in the region and disruption to oil supply. The Brent crude futures contract was up $1.17 or 1.6% at $74.4 a barrel, and US West Texas Intermediate crude was up $1.34 or 1.87% at $73.11. Both having risen more than 2% earlier in the trading session. Both contracts settled more than 1% lower on Monday on hope of easing geopolitical tension after media reports of Iran seeking an end to hostilities. However, the conflict took a turn for the worse on its 5th day today as Iranian media reported explosions and heavy air defenses fire in the capital Tehran. Over in Israel, air raid sirens sounded in Tel Aviv in response to Iranian missiles. Iran is the 3rd largest producer among members of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. Hostilities could disrupt its supply of oil and thereby increase prices. Elsewhere, OPEC and allies, including Russia or OPEC Plus, which pumps about half of the world's oil, said on Monday it expected the global economy to remain resilient in the second half of the year. It also trimmed its forecast for growth in oil supply from the US and other non-OPEC Plus countries in 2026.
In local news, Cabinet spokesperson Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa has dismissed rumours of an impending fuel shortage in Sri Lanka, urging the public not to panic or engage in unnecessary fuel hoarding.
ඒ රාත්‍රියේ සිට සමහර තැන්වල වාර්තා වුණා ඉරානය සහ ඊශ්‍රායලය අතර පවතින මේ යුදමය ගැටුම නිසා ලංකාවේ.
Since last night, there have been reports circulating, particularly on social media, suggesting that the ongoing conflict between Iran and Israel could lead to a fuel shortage in Sri Lanka. This has caused unnecessary panic in certain areas, with people rushing to fuel stations and forming long queues. Let me be clear, there is no need for alarm. Both the Ministry of Power and Energy and the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation have confirmed that Sri Lanka has sufficient fuel reserves for the next 2.5 months. Currently, we have 160,000 metric tons of crude oil in storage. By the end of this month, we expect an additional 90,000 metric tons to arrive. Furthermore, under long-term agreements, 4 more oil tankers have been ordered. These include 246,200 metric tons of octane 92, 5,000 metric tons of octane 95, 103,250 metric tons of Lanka auto diesel, 10,500 metric tons of Lanka super diesel. These supplies will arrive in time to ensure uninterrupted fuel availability. Therefore, I urge the public not to panic or stockpile fuel unnecessarily. The government is actively managing the situation to ensure a steady supply.
අවශ්‍ය තෙල් තොග සැපීමට රාජ්‍ය කටයුතු කරමින් පවතිනවා.
The government has decided to establish a new structural framework for the management of state-owned commercial enterprises. A preliminary draft bill has already been prepared and submitted to the Cabinet. At its meeting yesterday, the Cabinet approved the decision to expedite the drafting of a revised draft incorporating all the necessary amendments.
So what exactly is the government planning for these state-run enterprises? Minister of Industry and Entrepreneurship Development Sunil Hadunethi provided a detailed explanation in an interview with the Mavata vlog, outlining the objectives and direction of the proposed reforms.
When we looked at why investors are not coming, there were 3 main reasons. One is corruption. This has been brought down to zero in the political sector. Second is delays in approval. Third is our taxes. Our taxes are high on investors. We are creating a new mechanism removing these issues. It was approved at the cabinet meeting yesterday as well. A consolidated holding company will be formed to manage all state-owned enterprises. The government will be the sole owner, but the chairman will be the secretary of the Ministry of Finance. The directors will be the state sector officials from the ministries. If it is from the Ministry of Industries, an official from the Ministry of Industries will be a member of the board of directors. Then this entity will be freed from circulars that come down from ordinances. It is freed from the treasury. There is more freedom given, and why is this done? It is not done to sell those enterprises. It is done to allow them to work more freely. It will be a consolidated group of companies. They become limited liabilities. Nothing will be sold after that.
The government of Sri Lanka has signed an agreement with the government of the French Republic as part of its ongoing external debt restructuring process. The agreement marks a significant milestone in Sri Lanka's efforts to achieve debt sustainability and accelerate its economic recovery.
The signing ceremony took place on the 16th of June 2025 in Colombo. Representing Sri Lanka, K.M. Mahinda Siriwardana, Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, signed the agreement. William Rose, Assistant Secretary of the Multilateral Affairs, Trade and Development Policies at the Directorate General of the Treasury, signed on behalf of France. France had played a key role in Sri Lanka's debt restructuring journey, co-chairing the official creditor committee alongside Japan and India. Its leadership and constructive engagement have been instrumental in helping Sri Lanka navigate the complexities of economic reform and recovery. The Ministry of Finance emphasized that this spirit of cooperation has enabled the government of Sri Lanka to make meaningful progress toward restoring debt sustainability. It added that the conclusion of the exchange of notes and signing of the agreement will certainly pave the way to developing further the deep and long-standing bilateral relationships between the government of France and the government of Sri Lanka.
News First with the people.
The Samagi Jana Balawegaya boycotted today's parliamentary session, alleging that they were denied the opportunity to raise questions regarding the ongoing Israel-Iran crisis outside the scheduled parliamentary agenda. The boycott comes despite time being allocated in the afternoon session for a postponed debate on the Israel-Iran issue.
මේ මොහොතේ ඊටාම වැදගත් සංවේදී කාරණාවක් පිළිබඳව මේ සභාවේ ඔබතුමාගේ පොයින්ට් මේ සභාවෙත් රජයේ අවධානය පිණිස එක මිනිත්තු එකමාරක් මම ඔබතුමාගෙන් ඉල්ලනවා විපක්ෂයේ වෙනුවෙන් පොයින්ට් ඔෆ් ඕඩර් එක මොකද්ද පොයින්ට් මේක මේ අර්ජන්ට් මැටර් එකක් රටට බලපාන එකක් විනාඩියක් දෙන්න ඔබතුමාට තේරෙයි එතකොට නෑ ඔබතුමානේ සභාව පාත්වාගෙන යාමේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් තියෙන කන්ඩක්ට් කිරීමේ තියෙන ගැටලුවක් සම්බන්ධයෙන් තමයි කතා කරන්නේ
මට අවසරයක් තියෙනවද ඔබතුමාට ආමන්ත්‍රණය කරන්න
විශේෂ කාරණාවක් තියෙනවද කතා කරන්න
ගරු කතානායකතුමනි මේක ජාතික වශයෙන් වැදගත්
ගරු ඔබතුමාට මේ අතර ගරු සිවඥානම් සීදරම් මන්ත්‍රීතුමා ඔබතුමාට 27 දෙකෙන් අහන්න පුළුවන් 27 දෙකෙන් නෑ 27 දෙකෙන් නෑ ගරු මන්ත්‍රීතුමා නෑ 27 දෙකෙන් අහන්න පුළුවන් විශේෂ ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා අහන්න පුළුවන් ඔබතුමාට යුද්ධ පටන් ගත්තේ ඊයේ රෑ නොවේ අද උදේත් නෙවෙයි විපක්ෂ නායකතුමාට
The war didn't start last night or this morning. The opposition leader had the opportunity to raise this understanding order 27-2 but chose not to. Also, MP Geeta Kumarasinghe from Kurunegala district has already submitted a question regarding the Middle East conflict. Even if it's during a debate, this could have been addressed. Instead, the opposition ignored procedure and created unnecessary tension. Honorable Speaker, please take note.
තිබේදී පාර්ලිමේන්තු සම්ප්‍රදාය හැටියට ඒක භාවිතා නොකර අනවශ්‍ය ගැටුමක් හැදුවා.
අපි මතක් කරන්නට කැමති ඉස්රායලයේ
I'd like to remind the House that there are thousands of Sri Lankan citizens in Israel, possibly between 10,000 and 20,000. We don't have an exact figure. The government has a duty to ensure their safety. At the very least, this House should be briefed before we raise questions.
මේ සභාවට කරුණු දැක්වීමක් කරන්න.
මේ පැය ඇතුළතම
There's no need to demand an answer within the hour. The Foreign Ministry will respond during the session. Please ask your question from within the chamber. If you were present then, this wouldn't have turned into a media spectacle. The Foreign Ministry will provide a response this evening. Your duty is to treat both the government and the opposition equally. We can no longer endorse your conduct in this house. If you refuse to give us the opportunity to present our views, we cannot continue to participate in this session in a democratic manner. It's wrong to accuse the speaker just to gain media attention from this defeat. Some of the actions taken here are even worse than the chili powder incident. That wasn't the only disgraceful act. Honorable Speaker, there have been many. People come up to you and shout. I don't believe even Karu Jayasuriya was spoken to in such vulgar terms during the chili powder incident. I saw it with my own eyes. The opposition leader's first responsibility is to respect Parliament, including the Speaker and all of us. If he cannot fulfill that duty, he is unfit for the role. We must say that regardless, we will continue to recognize him as the opposition leader.
The SJB provided an explanation with regard to the walk out in Parliament.
We are truly disappointed. The Speaker, who is expected to act impartially and without political bias, failed to do so today. The opposition leader and the chief opposition whip were not even allowed to speak a word on a matter of national importance. That's why we, the opposition MPs, walked out and boycotted Parliament. The Speaker must understand this is not how things should be done.
Attorney at Law Sunil Watagala, the Deputy Minister of Public Security and Parliamentary Affairs, revealed that he witnessed the boycotting MPs in the Parliament canteen.
Today,
members of the Samagi Jana Balawega and few other parties boycotted the session after clashing with the Honourable Speaker. I was wondering what had changed. Then I realized something must have happened yesterday. It seems they couldn't face the situation or the country, so they walked out of the chamber. But the Speaker isn't going anywhere. He'll be back tomorrow. What? Are they going to avoid Parliament forever? I saw them downstairs, gathered around, enjoying a good meal in the canteen. I told them, at least come back after your break. But they said they will return tomorrow.
Mahinda Jayasinghe, the Deputy Minister of Labour, said the defeat suffered by the SJB at the Colombo Municipal Council yesterday could be the reason for the walk out in Parliament.
උදේම විපක්ෂ නායකතුමාට අවස්ථාවක් එනවා 27 දෙක යටතේ ප්‍රශ්න ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න ප්‍රකාශයක් කරන්න එතුමාට අවස්ථාවක් එනවා. අපි මේක රට
This morning, the opposition leader was given an opportunity under Standing Order 27-2 to raise questions and make a statement. We need to tell the country the truth. This is pure drama. Instead of using that opportunity, they waited until Parliament was proceeding properly and then suddenly disrupted everything. They act like they are overwhelmed, saying, "Oh no, I need to speak about the Iran-Israel war," with trembling voices. But that's not the real reason. Honourable Deputy Speaker, this all did not start yesterday. But yesterday they lost 54 to 61 in the Colombo Municipal Council. That's what really triggered this. Where's the conscience of Mujibur Rahman, Sajid Premadasa and rest of the group? I remember Sajid telling me, yes, I have the voice recording if needed, that it was support to a government that ruined the country and created division. Now they are trying desperately to rise again. Who said that? Sajid himself. I remember during the last election, the people were gathered and asked whether they should join this corrupt, failed Pohotua regime. The people said no. Now those same people who spoke out are joining hands with Pohotua to form a council. Where's the conscience? They lost separately before, and now they're losing together. They can't handle it. That's why they ran out of Parliament. We don't even know if they're holding a secret vote on leadership outside. Even within their own party, some MPs are challenging Sajid's leadership. Some are doing it publicly. Yes, we all raised both hands in this Parliament. 159 members endorsed Sajid Premadasa as opposition leader. He should remain.
Allegations are being levelled that the members of the Samaki Janapalawegya, headed by the opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, are making false statements regarding the appointment of the mayor of the Colombo Municipal Council. The opposition leader said yesterday that holding a secret ballot for the appointment of the mayor of the Colombo Municipal Council is illegal.
We would like to question as to how a request made by 60 members of the Municipal Council is writing for an open vote was disregarded. Who is changing these guidelines and doing whatever they please? Who gave this advice? We would like to ask as to if there was an influence from some higher up to deviate from the guideline.
Although the opposition leader made such an allegation, what really happened? It was Samaki Janapalawegya Municipal Councillor Roy Bogahavatha that requested for a secret ballot. Subsequently, the secret ballot was held with the consensus of both parties.
දැන් කෙලින්ම නගරාධිපති ධූරය සඳහා රාජ්‍යන්තයකට යමු කියලා දෙපාර්ශ්වයෙන්ම එකඟතාවයක් ආවා.
එතකොට යෝජනා දෙකක් තිබුණා. දැන් යෝජනා දෙක නැහැ. එතකොට නගරාධිපති තේරීම රාජ්‍යන්තයකට යනවා කියලා සභාව එකමතිකව තීරණය කරනවා. හරිනේ? හරි.
Samaki Janapalawegya Municipal Councillor Roy Bogahavatha spoke to the media today and provided further clarification on the matter.
රහස්චන්දයකට රහස්චන්දයක් තියෙනවා කියන එකඟතාවය තමයි පූර්ව නිගමනයට ඇවිල්ලා තිබුණේ. දේශ මන්ත්‍රීවරු කතා කළේ ඒතර නිගමනයකට ආවා. අපි එහෙනම් එක රහස්චන්දයකට යන් කියලා.
What did the municipal councillors representing the Samaki Janapalawegya do yesterday? National organizer of the Democratic National Alliance made a revelation regarding this matter today.
They had got all of their councillors to a hotel on the previous evening. They said that the national organizer of the United National Party also attended. They cannot even trust their own members. Will the newly elected novice councillors cast their first vote to a thief? What kind of an opposition leader is he? The Municipal Council Ordinance that was passed under the Constitution has clear provisions on how the mayor should be appointed. Both sides agreed in the Council and a proposal to hold a secret ballot was passed in the Council. They agreed to have a secret ballot in the Council and then come out and say that the local government commissioner was partisan and worked according to what the government wanted her to do. The commissioner acted based on the act. Sajith Premadasa shouted with arms flailing and said that he will have no deals. He said he has no deals with the Pohottua. He said he has no deals with those who broke into the central bank. He said he has no deals with racists. He lost 2 presidential elections. He lost a general election. He lost the local government election. He is not fit for the position of opposition leader and even the position of the leader of the Samaki Janapalawegya. He is a person who should resign immediately. Sajith Premadasa, who said he has no deals, had made deals with the Pohottua, the United National Party and other groups, and then gone on to break his own promises. Isn't he ashamed to do this after having shouted like that? When it comes to establishing power at the Colombo Municipal Council, none of that matters. Sajith Premadasa, who made deals and broke his promises, must resign immediately.
This is the perspective of the left centre.
To be honest, the issue isn't the election. The real issue is the opposition leader. What we are witnessing is a failure of political leadership, not just in action but in vision. Before trying to take control of the country, the opposition must first show it has the will and clarity to lead. Otherwise, it is not about winning power. It is about sending the opposition leader home. In any function in democracy, the opposition must demonstrate political ambition, strategic foresight and leadership. But we don't see any of that from the current opposition leader. If he truly had a political vision, if he had a purpose, he wouldn't have cozied up to the remnants of that the system the people ousted. Even some MPs elected under the Samaki Janapalawegya banner have now voted for the current mayor. It reflects the internal state of the party. Those MPs clearly see no political ambition.
The Samaki Janapalawegya today boycotted several sittings of local government bodies, demanding that the election for the position of the chairman of these bodies be held in a manner for which provisions have not been included in the Act. The Sitawaka Pradeshya Sabha was chaired today by Local Government Commissioner of the Western Province, Sarangika Jayasundara, for the election of the chairman of the local government body. The Samagi Janabalawegya said that a majority of the Pradeshya Sabha had called for an open vote by way of affidavits. A group from the opposition headed by the Samagi Janabalawegya later left the council since there was no quorum. The election of the chairman of the local government body had to be postponed. The election of the chairman of the Mawatagama Pradeshya Sabha was also postponed due to a lack of quorum. The situation arose after members of the opposition, including the Samagi Janabalawegya, left the council demanding for an open vote to be held.
මම ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා මෙතන ඉන්න කට්ටියකින් මම කතා කළ කරු මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ගේ ඡන්ද විමසක් කරන්න. මම කතා කළා ඡන්ද විමසක්. නෑ ඕක ලකුණු කිරීම නැතුව ඡන්ද සාක්ෂිය සම්බන්ධයෙන් ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙන කරු. කිසිම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ ඡන්ද සාක්ෂිය සම්බන්ධවට තිබේ නම් ඔය පෙට්ටියට ඒ ඡන්ද සාක්ෂිය
Later, 14 members of the opposition left the council.
A family that has never known the comfort of a home of their own are finally stepping into a new house today. To witness this heartfelt moment and learn more about their story, we move to Ranwahigama in Badul.
This is the place where Simon and baby Nona once lived. Not a home, but a fragile shelter that barely kept out the rain and never kept out the sorrow. Because when there's no roof over your head, there's no peace in your heart. They lived their lives with quiet resilience alongside their two sons and daughter-in-law. With one of their sons ailing, this family was facing each day with courage even as despair crept in. When their son fell ill, their world collapsed. Hope faded. The weight of helplessness grew heavier. But someone was listening. Lusanta Ratnaika, our reporter in Badula, saw their pain and carried their story to Gammadda. And Gammadda responded, not with promises, but with action. A decision was made to build them a real home, a place of dignity, a place of healing. Mantri Amarasinghe, a kind soul from Burella, stepped forward to fully sponsor the project. On the 26th of March, the first brick was laid. Today, what we hand over is not just a house. It is peace, it is safety, it is a future. For Simon and baby Nona, this is more than just shelter. This is the first time in their lives they can say, this is our home.
Acting Inspector General of Police Priyantha Veerasurya appeared before the three-member committee appointed to investigate the allegations included in the proposal to remove IGP Deshapanthu Tennakoon from office. During the proceedings, the committee also examined details related to the controversial shooting incident at the W15 Hotel in Valigama, which is among the accusations raised against Tennakoon.
One of the key allegations mentioned in the proposal submitted to Parliament seeking the removal of IGP Deshapanthu Tennakoon is the 2023 shooting incident at the W15 Hotel in Valigama. It is alleged that Tennakoon misused his official powers for personal reasons by deploying officers from the Colombo Crimes Division to carry out the shooting. The incident resulted in the death of a police officer.
What is the progress of your investigation into the Valigama shooting?
Your Honour, there are two ongoing investigations
investigations into this incident. After the CID began probing the matter, all 7 individuals involved were named as suspects. Public trust in the police was severely damaged. This should have never happened. The officers should have been properly identified and informed before entering the premises. They entered covertly, which led to their attempt to flee. False information was also provided to the department.
What action have you taken regarding this incident?
The CID is conducting the investigation. I have been informed that some evidence has been tampered with or destroyed.
The deceased sergeant was given unauthorized promotions. Shouldn't that be corrected?
Yes, an inquiry is underway. A decision will be made once it concludes.
Are you aware that 2.5 million rupees was granted to him from the President's Fund?
Yes, we are currently investigating that as well.
At the time, Minister Tiran Alas was in charge of public security. Was he aware of the sergeant's actions? A total of 4 million in public funds was granted.
Yes, the minister is aware and was directly involved. Until the investigation is complete, the funds cannot be accessed.
How did the minister know about this?
This was a joint operation conducted by the IGP and the minister.
So was that the basis for the joint media briefing?
Yes.
The committee will convene again tomorrow.
In a landmark judgment upholding the right to equal treatment, the Supreme Court, by majority decision, issued an order directing the Commissioner General of the Department of Registration of Persons to issue a national identity card to a Buddhist bhikkhuni, recognizing her status as a bhikkhuni instead of Silmatha. Chief Justice Murthu Fernando and Justice Gamini Amarasekara held that the petitioner's fundamental rights guaranteed under Article 12(1) of the Constitution had been violated by the Commissioner General of the Department of Registration of Persons. This application was filed before the Supreme Court under Article 17 and 126 of the Constitution, alleging that the failure to issue an NIC to the first petitioner recognizing her status as a bhikkhuni amounted to an infringement or imminent and continuing infringement of her right to equal treatment under Article 12(1) of the Constitution.
Far from the city noise, under a mango tree, children turn broken desks into a stage. They sing, they dance, they try. No bright lights, no big crowds, just a small school and big dreams. Change is coming. An open-air stage for the Kattaragama Primary School. Gamatha, for the people, by the people.
The central bank said that Sri Lanka's economy held steady with 4.8% growth in the Q1 of 2025 despite global pressures.
Sri Lanka's economy expanded by 4.8% in the first quarter of 2025, according to the latest national accounts estimates released by the central bank, while slightly lower than 5.1% growth recorded in Q1 2024. The data reflects continued resilience amid global economic headwinds. The report attributes the growth primarily to strong performances in the industry and services sectors. Manufacturing emerged as the top contributor, adding 1.67 percentage points to overall growth, followed by construction, financial services and accommodation. However, the agriculture sector contracted by 0.7%, reversing its modest 0.9% growth from the same period last year. The services sector showed a slight improvement, rising from 2.5% to 2.8%, while industry saw a marginal dip from 11.2% to 9.7%. A sectoral breakdown showing services as the dominant contributor to GDP, followed by industry, agriculture and taxes less subsidies.
The bell-ringing ceremony in celebration of the 65th anniversary of CA Sri Lanka was held in Colombo yesterday.
CA Sri Lanka proudly marked a historic milestone by ringing the ceremonial bell at the Colombo Stock Exchange to commemorate its 65th anniversary. The bell was formally rung by CA Sri Lanka's President Heshana Kuruppu in the presence of Vice President Tishan Subasinghe, members of Council, past presidents, CEO Lakmali Priyangika, as well as CSE Chairman Dilshan Weerasekara, CEO Rajiva Bandaranayaka and CEO Designate Windya Jayasekara.
we have come here to Colombo Stock Exchange for the bell ringing ceremony. Sri Lanka over the last 65 years have stood for transparency, accountability, governance and sustainability. And when it comes to reporting, transparency, accountability, governance, sustainability is paramount important, and that is the value which is reflected in the financial statements of entities, be it a listed entity or non-listed entity. So we are happy that we have come here today because Colombo Stock Exchange also hold a long-term partnership with us because we hold every year tax award ceremony to recognize those corporates who are having good reporting practices under transparency, accountability, governance and sustainability. So while thanking Colombo Stock Exchange for providing us this opportunity, we are actually committed to provide the same service and ensure all our stakeholders and interested parties received robust financial reporting information.
The event also underscored CA Sri Lanka's continued commitment as a world-class professional body to lead with vision, thrive through professional excellence and sustain the growth and relevance of the accounting profession.
Foreign direct investment, a vital engine for economic growth and improved living standards, has fallen to its lowest level in 2 decades in developing economies. Now, this is according to a new research from the World Bank.
Foreign direct investment into developing economies has plunged to its lowest since 2005, according to new research from the World Bank. The decline, driven by rising trade and investment barriers, poses a serious threat to global efforts to finance development and lift living standards. In 2023, the latest year for which data are available, developing economies received just $435 billion in FDI, the lowest level since 2005. That coincides with a global trend in which FDI flows into advanced economies have also slowed to a trickle. High-income economies received just $336 billion in 2023, the lowest level since 1996. As a share of their GDP, FDI inflows to developing economies in 2023 were just 2.3%, about half the number during the peak year of 2008.
The 40th anniversary of the Women and Media Collective Conference was held in Colombo.
The 40th anniversary of the Women and Media Collective Conference, titled 40 Years of Feminist Leadership, Collective Activism, Resistance and Resilience, was held in Colombo under 2 sessions. In her opening remarks, Executive Director at the Law and Society Trust, Sakunthala Kadrigama, emphasized on intersectional feminism.
We tend to talk about race inequality or ethnic inequality as separate from inequality based on gender, class, sexuality or immigrant status. What's often missing is how people are subject to all these, and that the experience is not just the sum of its parts. Intersectional feminism puts all these realities at the center. It compels us to listen to the people who face multiple forms of oppression and to build solutions that reflect the full picture. That is why intersectional feminism matters even in 2025. It helps us to see how systems of oppression reinforce each other and why we need solutions that are just as interconnected. Intersectionality and feminist economics is a tool for unpackaging reality and experience. It is a tool for radical transformation and a call for radical transformation. They are the 3 corners of a triangle.
The first test between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh got underway today at the picturesque Galle International Stadium.
The first test between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh is especially significant as it marks the final test appearance of former Sri Lanka captain Angelo Matthews, a veteran of the game whose contributions have left an indelible mark on Sri Lankan cricket. A heartfelt farewell ceremony was held before the start of play to honour his illustrious career. Sri Lanka also welcomed 2 new faces to the test arena. Lahiru Dara, a promising top-order batter, and Tharindra Ratnayaka, an ambidextrous spinner, both making their test debuts. Bangladesh, having won the toss, opted to bat first. Openers Shadman Islam and Anamul Haq began the innings, but Sri Lanka struck early, reducing the visitors to 45 for 3. However, what followed was a remarkable recovery. Captain Najmul Hossain Shanto and veteran Mushfiqur Rahim stitched together an unbroken 247-run partnership for the fourth wicket, turning the tide in Bangladesh's favour. At stumps on day one, Bangladesh stood strong at 292 for 3, with Shanto unbeaten on 136, his 6th Test century, and Mushfiqur on 105 not out, registering his 12th Test 100.
And that's a wrap for Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.